But look out. While all this craziness is going on, they're slipping around and trying to start passing bills, trying to take away your rights, which is exactly what we saw in Colorado. Can you imagine deciding to, I mean, first of all, have you ever heard of, assembly members or your government getting together to vote on something on a Sunday? On a Sunday? That seems odd. I haven't heard of that happening before. Oh, and by the way, what are they going to do on that Sunday? They're going to try and get rid of the religious exemption, or at least rename it and move it into different categories and start tracking people. So amazing, while you're at church, your government's going to attempt to attack your religious freedom and right to say, maybe I don't want to inject aborted fetal DNA into my baby. Well, they didn't fool enough people, because as the police officers are now stating that were there present in Colorado, 3,000 people showed up. And this is what that rally looked like.
You take this day and leverage it on behalf of our children and freedom against medical tyranny in Colorado.
It's about hope, the hope that we can all stand together, no matter what differences we have, no matter what gender we are, no matter what color we are.
Are we supposed to be the home of the free and the land of the brave?
The truth is that there is a conflict of interest in medicine that cannot be overlooked.
We're directly opposed to 163.
We oppose this bill.
I oppose 163.
The battle over SB20-163 is a battle over choice, control, and power. Who has dominion over our children's education, our bodies, and our data? Parents or the state?
I am a sophomore in high school, and I'm part of the population that is genetically predisposed to a crippling vaccine reaction. I nearly died when I was a baby. Aren't I the one this bill is supposed to protect?
In my 15 years of practice, we were never taught about the risks of vaccinations.
This bill is a direct attack on the freedom and sovereignty of a U.S. citizen. It goes against the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship, and it goes against everything we learned about ethics in medicine.
Hey, we don't trust you. We don't trust you with our health. We don't trust you with our life. You're not speaking for us. You're speaking for Big Pharma.
How is the party that stands for a woman's right to choose to do with her body going to remove the right to choose from poor folks? I don't get it. Where's that from? It seems like it's from Big Pharma.
It's not just Big Pharma that has a huge motivation to hijack our students and to undermine family and parental autonomy. It's also all of these Silicon Valley companies and educational tech companies that want to get their claws into this data. What happened to the bulwarks of HIPAA? What happened to the bulwarks of FERPA, which every parent in this room knows about?
We stand on the outside of a system that is a juggernaut, that has taken the lives of so many children with half-baked science and tried to mandate that needles be placed in the arms of people who don't even have a fully formed blood-brain barrier.
About 1 million people are saying something is wrong with our children. Something is wrong with our children, and nobody's listening.
Those who are in the movement didn't want to be in it. These parents woke up to a living nightmare where their children were permanently altered due to trusting a medical system, a system that has a history of experimenting on black and brown bodies to figure out what to do for white bodies. You see what I'm saying?
The history of pharmaceutical misconduct in relationship to the black community is well known, and clear evidence exists that is still happening today.
1980, CDC recommended the DTP vaccine, which is now banned in this country. Guess where they still use it? In Africa.
If you're confused about why we're here, that's why we're here. It's for the next bill coming after this. It ain't just what this bill does. It's the thing that's going to be on the horizon. That if we don't do this now, the incrementalism that we've seen time and time again remove freedoms, this is going to be a Trojan horse.
I'm going to be here every day in Colorado, every day in California, every day in Connecticut, fighting this, because right now, we do not trust our government. You are not our friends. You're not listening to us.
We call the shots, not them. And if we don't exercise our muscles of civic and political engagement, they will hijack our children.
That's right.
If we don't draw the line here in Colorado, they will do the same in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
We are a bulwark of freedom, not just for our children, but for America's children.
Oh man, America, we are getting good at this. What an exciting rally. Some of the usual suspects, but I think what's even more exciting is the brand new faces and voices that we are now seeing show up. Scientists, doctors, members of the NAACP, and of course, a brand new voice we've seen on the stage was syndicated columnist and often a Fox News contributor. Michelle Malkin was there. Michelle joins me now. Michelle, I was unable to make it to that rally. I found out about it the last minute and wasn't able to get out there. But you were there, and, you know, this is one of the first times, at least I haven't seen you at any of these rallies that we've gone to before. So just give me a sense, why now? Why did you show up for this rally on medical freedom and, you know, an attack on sort of the vaccine exemptions in Colorado?
Del, it was magical, and you were definitely there in spirit if you weren't there physically. Yeah. And the work that you have done on this to electrify and educate so many people is paying off. And certainly the outpouring of support, 3,000, at least 3,000 people mustering within 48 to 96 hours, because as you referenced, this was an attempt to blindside Colorado parents and suppress their voices, very calculated by the majority Colorado Democrats here in my adopted home state where I've lived for 12 years, and it did not work. And of course, the bill went on to be passed by a party line vote, but it is not over until it's over. And the vigilance of all of these parents that have been awoken is not going away. That's a chant that many of the parents led during the past couple of days, even as there have been more hearings on it. We're not going away. To answer your question about why me and why now, I've lived here for 12 years, and in a large part, when we moved from the East Coast, we were looking for a sanctuary, a safe space for our kids to raise them the way we see fit. And the issues of family autonomy, family sovereignty, and particularly medical freedom have been at the forefront of our lives. I have 2 teenagers. One of them has chronic illness and chronic pain, and we have experienced firsthand what it's like to challenge the medical establishment. And this goes back years to even when my youngest was a 2-month-old, and we merely questioned in the most polite way possible whether we could delay the administration of the Hep B vaccine, which caused us to be kicked out of our pediatrician's practice. And I know that my story is the story of legions of families out there. So it was a perfect storm. I was asked to speak, and I jumped at the chance to do so.
Well, it's amazing. And, you know, I don't know if you grapple with this. A lot of times, you know, I'm being attacked now. Fact checkers are all over me. And the question is, you cannot, you know, report the news and be the news. But the truth is first and foremost, I see myself as an American citizen. And, you know, I've also recognized in my life and in my career, whether it was when I think I really came to this challenge when I went to Haiti, and I realized as I was standing there with a camera, and there was a child that was wounded, and parents they were trying to get a tent and trying to get set up. And I just thought, my job right now is to hold this camera, and I'm just supposed to see whatever happens, whether these people die or live. But that's just not me. I threw down the camera. I grabbed them. I moved them to a shelter. I helped them put up that shelter. Is that media, or are we somehow breaking the rules once we jump over and get involved and say people's lives are hanging in the balance? Do you grapple or think about that at all?
I have over the years, and you try to honor this balance between being a journalist who is trustworthy, and all we can do is report the facts and make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed, everything is cited. Everything I do, everything I write about, and particularly this issue, it has hyperlinks to PubMed journal articles and you know, all the most reliable sources that I can muster, including your show, which I encourage so many newcomers to this debate, especially in the wake of the mess of these pandemic experts who are wrong over and over again, as you pointed out in your monologue. So more people are coming to this from many different angles, not just the vaccine angle. And that was the emphasis of my testimony too, because this is a civil rights issue, as so many of the members of the NAACP and people who are coming from New Jersey to testify who've grappled with this. It's also a data privacy issue. And once people start questioning this idea that you should always trust the experts, it opens up an entire new landscape of challenging establishment and authority that have lied to us terribly, and cost so much in terms of our own kids' public health and safety.
Absolutely. Let me make the point, because we are a video format and not a written format. Just like Michelle Malkin said, if you want to look into any of the stats, any of the peer-reviewed science that we'll provide on the show today, all you have to do if you're watching on Facebook right now is go into the comments and type ICAN, just that, those 4 letters, and we will make sure that you get copies so that you can do your own investigation. I want to make this clear. we're not here as the HighWire telling you what to think. We're trying to show you how to think, where we're looking for the information. I want you to come to your own conclusions. If you just jump off of one person you're following and just start saying, I'm going to do whatever Dell says, then you're not waking up. We are trying to get people to wake up. I need you thinking for yourself. Very quickly, Michelle, when we talk about this bill, my understanding is they are basically going to get rid of the religious and philosophical exemption and call it the non-medical exemption, was one part of that, which to me just says, let's give it a really moronic name so that, it's non-medical, so that, probably 6 months down the road, we'll go like, who needs a non-medical? Who wants to be non-medical? And they'll just, flush it down the toilet. And if my understanding is right, there's also going to be more data tracking, right? Tracking those parents that want to opt out of the vaccine program or skip a vaccine. They're going to have to be read a riot act by a doctor or somebody like that. And then they are now going to be tracked, which, as you pointed out, to me would be a total invasion of privacy. We are really dancing on the line with your HIPAA rights and things like that. Is there anything that I mischaracterized or you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think that for clear-eyed people, what we see here is they're setting the table for instituting a requirement that future Colorado school children be mandated to take whatever future COVID vaccine is out there as a condition for access to public education. It's outrageous what they're trying to do. And of course, you always have to follow the money to find the truth. It's the financial incentives here. And you talk about this as well. Big Pharma is behind this. They've set up phony AstroTurf groups. You had thousands of parents show up on Sunday. In February, when they had a hearing on this, there were 14 hours of testimony. The vast majority of them, parents who objected, and the lobbyists who are funded by pharma and corporations set up these grassroots, so-called grassroots groups, phony groups, to show some sort of opposition. There were about a dozen of them. They limited the testimony on Sunday to 1.5 hours each on each side. 22 people each got to speak on one side or the other, when there were thousands of people who had lined up out in the sun to make their voices heard by these legislators who are bought off by Big Pharma.
They made it sound like it was a balanced argument, that we had just as many people on both sides, whereas you have thousands and thousands stacked up outside. Did you notice, was there any difference in how those that were speaking out for medical freedom were treated compared to those that were stepping up to the microphone that were pro, supposedly, forced injections into your body without any choice?
I thought that many of the state legislators were rude. Many of the people on our side were cut off, especially when they came off to the cutoff time, and several pled to be heard. Even from the very get-go, of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. flew out, took the time to fly out. I don't know where he was flying out from, maybe from California or whatnot. You know, a respected public figure taking the time out. They limited him to 2 minutes, and it seemed clear to me that some of the people who were sitting on the panel behind their masks didn't even know who he was. So it's just unbelievable.
Unbelievable. You know, when we were talking about you were saying that there was one person that seemed to be organizing all of the pro-vaxxers inside there to get onto the microphone. A woman named Sundari Kraft, and over here we did. I just, you know, I want to check this with you because I know you were looking at this, but we found some very interesting things. When you talk about sort of fake grassroots, I think that this would be the best definition. So when we looked at this woman who apparently is helping all the pro-vaxxers get to the microphone, her name's Sundari Kraft. She's a lobbyist of Ascent Strategies, LLC. Well, if you see their website, it's a public policy, state and local lobbying, community engagement, communications consulting, and public relations group. They list Colorado Parents for Vaccinated Communities as one of their clients, but of course you can also see biotechnology innovation. You can see that there's also Purdue Pharma is one of their clients. I mean, Purdue Pharma, which is responsible and paid out incredible amounts of money for the OxyContin epidemic that they are being held responsible for. This is one of those things I'm just amazed that company is still working in America and allowed to work. And so that's who Ascent works with. So then you go further on, and obviously, you know, when you look at the government website, it says at the top, Ascent Strategies, LLC, that their client is Colorado Parents for Vaccinated Communities. Now, I think we found this fascinating, but if you go to the website for Colorado Parents for Vaccinated Communities, you see this page. Okay, looks great. These are people, but on their own page, it says pro-science, pro-health, pro-vaccine, Colorado Parents speaking up for good policy. CPVC is a grassroots engagement project of Ascent Strategies. It's a project of Ascent Strategies. So am I to understand that a pharma lobbying group started a grassroots group and then said that they were hired by that grassroots group to go and lobby for this bill? And there's some rumors that Sundari might have had something to do with actually the writing of the bill, and whether or not we prove that, it sure looks like a lobbying group hired themselves to lobby. Have you looked any deeper into this? I mean, you say follow the money. What did you find?
Yes, and I've looked at the lobbyist registration forms for Ascent Strategies, even just for a single month last year. These are supposed to be disclosed. And of course, Colorado Parents for Vaccinated Communities has forked over at least thousands of dollars just for a single month. It is a circle, right? It is a self-perpetuating circle of AstroTurf. I love the term that you used earlier in the show, Illuminati of clowns, right?
Right.
I mean, it's certainly them. And you know what? You know, the fact is, here we are in just a couple of minutes raising these financial conflict of interest issues that the rest of the local media in my home state of Colorado should be delving into and investigating. And instead, they are party to the false narratives. When they describe Sundari Kraft in media articles, they call her a Denver mom of two who is the founder of a grassroots group. She's been a lobbyist in Denver, part of the swamp for the last 10 years. And by the way, if you look at Ascent Strategies as well, it brags about her award called the CDC Childhood Immunization Champion Award. Well, you go to the CDC site and you realize that the group that gave her the award, the Association of Immunization Managers, is supported by a corporate alliance that includes every single one of the pharma and vaccine manufacturers, platinum partners including Merck, Sanofi Pasteur, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Dynavax, and VaxCare. Grassroots.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. And when we look at CPVC, the Colorado Parents for Vaccinated Communities, who are their supporters, listen to these organizations. You got GlaxoSmithKline, just as you described there, Pfizer, RX Plus, and then Voices for Vaccines. This is a group that we know itself is a supposed grassroots organization funded very much by pharma. Stanley Plotkin works with them, all sorts of other players. You know, it's an uphill climb, right? There's so much money. I think pharma is, if it's not the most powerful industry in the world, it is sure on the verge of it if it can start forcing its products into us without choice, if it can kick us out of hospitals unless we are using every single one of their products. Are you hopeful? Are you hopeful? I mean, you know, with all that's going on and all of, like I said, all of the insanity, people are confused, but do you think more people are waking up or are we losing more people? What is your feeling as we move forward?
I have much more hope than despair. And speaking to these thousands of people on Sunday has electrified me even more and emboldened me. And as I told the crowd during my remarks, we may not have billionaires backing us, and we may not have Bill Gates and Big Pharma and all of these NGOs that suck up billions of dollars to endanger us. But we have the truth on our side. We have God on our side. And I felt his presence there on this sunny Sunday morning at a point where these Colorado Democrats were hoping that we would cower in fear. And I said that America is not a land of fear. We are a land of freedom. And I think the people here are not going to give up. And I hope that sends a message to the rest of the country too, because this bill and this racket are coming to every state in America.
Well, Michelle Malkin, welcome to the fight for freedom. I know that you've been on so many fronts. We are so thankful to have voices like yours now speaking out and joining us in this incredibly crucial time. I think the remaining control of our bodies and the bodies of our children is really the line in the sand. If we lose that, there is no such thing as freedom. This truly is a freedom fight, and we are so thankful for your reporting. And I hope we get you in here more often to bring us more of your brilliant reporting, just like you've been doing for years. Thank you for joining me today, Michelle.
Yvette, take care. Thank you for all you do, Del.